about these 3-0 at home Warriors? 3 wins in a row for the Warriors, including a humbling of the Memphis Grizzlies on Christmas Day, in which Klay decided to taunt and make fun of Dylan Brooks, who slipped and kind of fell on his backside and was sliding. A little out of character from Klay there, but the Warriors must be feeling good after that horrendous road trip that we covered in the last episode. But what is the deal with this home versus away stuff with the Warriors? How can they look great at home and then look like the worst team in the NBA on the road?
We still haven't figured it out, and it's something we talked about last week too. And we never really came to a conclusion, and I still don't know if there is a conclusion because they could look so good right now. I think I said in the last podcast, I was like, what is pointing to the idea that they will even go 500 in this homestand? And here they are looking like they're about to go undefeated in the homestand. So it's like, it doesn't, I still don't totally understand. They have to go on a road trip again, and then we'll see.
So the way that the NBA schedule is working right now, so the road trip that they finished before the Memphis game, it was a 6-gamer in which they went 1-5, and in the losses, the closest they were 6 points to the Pacers, and then everything else was double digits. Mm-hmm. And in the case of the New York games, both 30-point losses. So you get to the thing of coming home, and you're like, are they even going to play well? And then we talked about the 3-point percentage on defense, where they're the best defensive 3-point team in the league percentage-wise at home and the worst in the entire league on the road. And they come home, they get Memphis on Christmas, and we'll dig a little deeper into that game. They get, I don't know, a little bit of a gift, I would say, on Tuesday in the Charlotte game. I didn't think they played very well. If they'd played a better team, they probably lose. And then they struggle against Utah, but Draymond comes up big in the fourth quarter. Ty Jerome, and we'll talk about him because I think we got to put a little respect on his name. Ty Jerome has a great second half, and they are able to squeak out that game. Now, those Hornets and Jazz games are games on the road that they always lose. Really tight. They make a little comeback. It goes into the fourth quarter, last 2 minutes, and then they blow it. But at home, they win those 2 games. So it doesn't really make sense to me, but I guess it's just the good home team. You know, people say, oh yeah, you know, playing at home, you are more comfortable, you sleep in your own bed, and all those things. And I'm sure all those things matter. But man, to the extent of how poorly they play on the road is kind of crazy.
Okay, maybe I have something. I feel like the Warriors are kind of a team that fuels off of like the momentum, and you know, when Steph goes on like a flurry and hits like 3 threes in the span of like a minute and 30 seconds, Klay does it too, Poole does it too. I think it's easier to go on that when you have the crowd behind you. Chase Center, I mean, as much as we loved Oracle, Chase Center is probably still a top 3 place to play at home, where the seats are always pretty much sold out and the crowd's pretty into it. And there was some stat as well, and Iguodala talked about it in Point Forward, where it's like the Warriors commit the most fouls and like take the least amount of free throws.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that like, look, like we don't foul like that much more than any other team. And then the free throw thing too, where maybe that's taking them away on the road from going on those runs, and they don't have the crowd behind them because they take themselves out of games pretty quickly on the road, where it's like, okay, they realized they were already just going to lose the Knicks game, so they punted it pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The Nets won as well. So, and at home, they're just not going to do that. I don't think they punt games like that, especially, they don't really like sit guys for rest on back-to-backs at home either, except for Klay. Whereas on the road, it's like, okay, Steph, yes, you could just sit one out.
Okay, so let's go back to Christmas because we watched that game together. Big game. Memphis comes out with, you know, they're pretty confident. We have the Ja quote, which we didn't even mention in the last show. I forgot to bring it up, which was that he's not worried about anybody in the West, and he's only worried about the Celtics. And Ja, he doesn't have what I would consider a great game, but he does have a good game. He just they started to give him the 3-pointer, and he went 2 for 10, and that was really the only thing he did poorly. He ended up with a lot of shots to get 36 points. but he had also 6 turnovers. He's a -7. But he's a guy that team respects, man. They know he's a dude out there. And you watch him, and I would sort like, he's not quite Allen Iverson yet. You didn't get to experience the Allen Iverson whole thing, the just his, just in awe of him, because as a small guy to be able to do what he did on the court was pretty amazing. Ja, he's not yet there in Iverson, though. When it comes to like efficiency, like he's a better overall efficient scorer than Iverson was. He doesn't have the defensive sort of highlight prowess where Iverson would just get this dunk or get this dunk off of a breakaway from a steal and just like feed into everything. But Ja, seven rebounds, 8 assists, 36 points. He's an absolute superstar, but nobody else really came to play for his team. We were kind of joking and saying, gosh, I love it when Dylan Brooks shoots. Dylan Brooks 4 of 12 shooting, 1 of 6 from 3. He was getting into the gamesmanship, the taunting, the trash talking with Draymond, with Jordan Poole, with the sideline, with Klay, maybe even a little Joe Lacob sprinkled in there, but he had a poor game. In his poor game, though, I was looking at the numbers. He was only a -3. I thought he was like the biggest minus on the entire team, but that would actually go to Brandon Clark at a -16, and then Zaire and Desmond Bane were both -14. So they were not losing by a lot when he was on the court. I guess it just felt that way because we were hoping that he was going to do so poorly. But Jaren Jackson with dumb fouls taking him out of the game, and he's a guy who plays really well against the Warriors because he's athletic and he's big. But yeah, man, like the Warriors just come out, no Steph, no Wiggins, and Jordan Poole comes out hot. He sort of his first quarter was his best quarter by far, and I feel like he didn't really play that well in the second and third quarters, but his first quarter was so big that it kind of carried it. Klay, do you know that Klay went 3 for 12 from 3 that game? 3 for 12. My guy had as many shots from 3 as Dante DiVincenzo had from the field, and Dante made 5 threes in this game.
Hey.
But yeah, what looking back, we're about not quite a week out, about 4 or 5 days out from that game. When you sort of think about that game and how it relates to the Warriors season so far, what are your sort of Monday morning quarterback thoughts on that game?
I think that, we talk about the Warriors getting up for those type of games, the ABC/ESPN, the big opponent that talks trash to you. Like the Warriors will make sure that those games are competitive, even if they're bad. And I wouldn't credit this game all to that, but I think there was some, outside noise, the Ja quote that we haven't said yet. And I don't know. I think they just came prepared for this one, and it's relying on like Poole having that first quarter. If Poole doesn't have that first quarter, like I don't know if how well that game plays out for them.
Do you also know? And I wouldn't have predicted this. DiVincenzo was a -9 in that game. Kind of amazing because the Warriors won by 14. The best in the plus minus. Jerome at plus 23 and Jonathan Kuminga at plus 21. I thought, what I thought was pretty interesting. So Dante DiVincenzo, obviously not on the team last year, didn't go through that 6-game series where these teams just looked like they hated each other. He stepped in and, he played on a really good Bucks team. So he was not sort of bothered by that limelight that you're talking about where the Warriors get up big for these games. John Conchar and Santi Aldama were the 6th and 7th guys off the bench for the Grizzlies. And I don't remember, were they on that team last year?
I believe Conchar was. Actually, I think both of them were.
Okay, so they both were on that team. They just didn't get as much run last year as so far it looks like this year then.
Yeah. And I mean, Melton was there. Maybe pushes one of them out of the rotation. I forget who else was pushed. Zaire was hurt a lot in the beginning of the year. He's just getting ramped back up into the rotation, so maybe he pushed them out too.
Yeah, so Conchar has been with Memphis for 4 years now. But yeah, I don't really remember him playing that much. But
Mhm.
he's the sixth man, and he gets 20 minutes. And then you get Aldama, who was also on that team last year, though he didn't play all that much. He only played 32 games, 11 minutes a game. But they're thrust into this uh, so what we have been told is a deeper Memphis team. And you push down someone like Brandon Clark, you push down Tyus Jones, you push down
Xavier Tillman.
Zaire. Yeah, Xavier Tillman didn't play. David Roddy didn't play, and those were guys that we saw in the playoffs last year.
Roddy is a rookie, I believe.
Oh, is he a rookie?
Yeah.
Where did I see
Wait,
him then?
I think.
Yeah, you're right. He is a rookie.
Okay.
I think was he in the California Classic? Is that where I saw him?
No, I don't think Memphis was there, but he had some summer league moments.
Okay, so I remember seeing him before.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you throw those guys in there, and they were not good. Aldama started hit shots late. He had a couple threes late, but Conchar was 0 for 6, missed all of his shots. So it was just kind of interesting. The guys that DiVincenzo and Jerome, who were not on this team last year, and even Wiseman only played 8 minutes. But I think he was the first guy off the bench, if I'm not mistaken, in this game. He only played 8 minutes, 5 rebounds. He was a +8. But those guys that the Warriors had who weren't on the squad last year, they fit into this game really well and met the Memphis guys who didn't play all that much during the playoffs. They did not. So I thought that was kind of an interesting telltale sign in sort of getting up for these big games, getting your team ready for these games. The Warriors definitely saw it as like, we need to show these guys who won the title. And the Memphis guys came into it kind of like, we're better than these guys, so we should beat them. And it was an interesting, different kind of style for each. And the Warriors, they can do it for but it doesn't seem like they can always do it for the big games, because they did the same thing for Boston. They played Boston. I think we called that the best game of the year, that game, or Memphis, whatever one. But and then they can't get up for Charlotte for some reason, and they let Charlotte hang around to the point where I was like, we barely deserve to win this basketball game, beating Charlotte by 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and do you want to talk about the Ja quote?
Yeah, go ahead.
What did he say? He was like, "We're not worried about anyone in the West." To Malika,
So I think
was
it was Malika.
or was it to Brooks?
I think I
think
actually
it was Malika.
don't remember.
I think it was Malika.
Yeah, she said something like, what team are you worried about? And he said Boston, and then she said, what about in the West? And he said nobody.
Yeah, I think that I like Memphis's vibe where it's like, everybody versus us, and I just think that sometimes you can keep that mentality and keep that vibe, but you gotta I don't think you can victimize yourself when things don't go your way. And I think there was like a Dylan Brooks quote after the game that was kind of like sad and mopey and like complaining. And then even last year when the coach, I think Taylor Jenkins is his name, he was like ready to call the cops on Jordan Poole for
yeah.
I think it's all fun because I like their team. It's very homegrown. They seem to all really like each other and are like friends off the court.
Yep.
But I think that they just can't whine and complain and victimize themselves when things don't go their way, like a loss like that.
I mean, you put a vet on that team, and yeah, Steven Adams been in the league for a while.
Give them Jay Crowder.
Somebody like that who has been in the dogfight of the playoffs and who can kind of settle the team down a little bit and just be like, yeah, we need to walk before we can run. And that may be the big thing for them, is to get someone who's a little bit tested, because then the way that they come in with this bravado, and then they get smacked in the mouth like right away, then you go, okay, like we can come back from this. Like it's like we're going to get on a run and we'll figure this out. They didn't have that. It was up to Ja. Essentially, it became up to Ja because the Warriors were like, okay, we're taking away, especially with Jaren Jackson not playing, we're taking away everybody else. You can pass it to Steven Adams. We know he's not doing jack crap. Like Steven Adams is never going to be a problem for the Warriors because they're not scared of his offense. He's going to get rebounds. Absolutely. They're not scared of his offense, and they just want to pull him out on the perimeter for defense. Like he's not a problem for them. So who's the guy that can come in and sort of settle things down? Brandon Clark I don't think he's a good enough defender to be that player, but they do need a vet. And that's, if you're looking at trade deadline stuff, I don't know who you would be willing to give up, but they do need a vet to kind of figure, they need a David West, right? They need somebody like that who can kind of go, okay, let's pull it back and let's just trust the system here and let's go.
Yeah. And the last thing I think about Memphis is that, well, I mean, even in the Crowder situation, like I can't see the Suns like giving it up to like a direct rival or a direct competitor that's also contending as well as them. But I feel like if you're Memphis, and again, I actually don't have a problem with them saying that. Like, I think it's fun. They just got to be ready to accept the criticism. But I think it would make more sense coming from a team like Boston or Milwaukee, probably more Boston because of how high they are in the standings and how many games back most of the teams in the East are. Whereas in the West, it's still like the 6th seed is like 3 games back from first place. When Josh said that they were the 1 seed, fast forward 2 days later, they're the 3 seed.
Yeah. Then they got beat. They got beat again. Who do they lose to? Phoenix?
I know they lost to the Warriors and the Suns. I don't know if they've played another game after that.
Yeah, they lost to the Warriors and the Suns, and now they are 20-13. Still, though,
really good,
really good record, really good team. They're going to be fighting in the playoffs. They're going to be in the mix, and
I think it's really good for basketball for the NBA that they're good. A small market team. Homegrown superstar.
I would love to see a Pelicans Grizzlies playoffs.
Oh my god, that would be awesome.
Zion. But yeah, just looking at the standing. So the Warriors currently are 18-18. They are 10th behind the Jazz, who they just beat, and behind the Blazers, who they play tomorrow, I believe. And so they could pick up a game if they win that game, or they could get another game picked up on them if they don't win. So everything from, I mean, even the Suns at 20-16, they're a little bit closer to the Warriors than you would have thought based on the two teams playing each other already. But the Warriors are only, what would it be? 5 games maybe out of first place. Which
I think it's 6, 5 or 6. Yeah,
5 or 6, which is kind of ridiculous, right? Like you look at that, and it's like the way that they played is ridiculous. But they're only like 2.5 away from the two full games away from the Suns for that 5th slot, and that's kind of where they need to angle up. It's like 5 and 6 is where you want to be. You don't want to be in 7, 8 because then you got to play in that tournament. So yeah, not too bad here. And depending on how they do in the next 5 games of this homestand, you never know. All they got to really do is go like 3-2, and you consider it, an excellent homestand. So
I feel like expectations are higher now, though.
Well, let's look at the schedule then. So the
pretty easy.
Who's the hardest? The Suns would be the hardest team, you think?
Yeah, Portland Suns, Detroit and Orlando.
So Friday, the Blazers. Monday, the Hawks. Wednesday, the game we're going to is the Pistons game. Then the Magic. The Magic are feisty.
Yeah.
But the Warriors will have about 3 games, 3 days of rest, so they should be able to catch the Magic. And then Tuesday against the Suns, and then they're on the road. Against teams that they could beat, by the way, though. Spurs, Bulls, and Wizards right out of the gate.
Oh my goodness. For the road trip. This could be a really good stretch of games for them. It favors them, the matchups and what they're going through. Like even Phoenix with Devin Booker missing a lot of time. He's not even going to be playing that game. I think there's some internal stuff with the Hawks right now too with Trae Young. I don't know how much that's going to affect it, but I want to say like the Hawks might even be the toughest competition, and maybe the Blazers, depending on who's healthy and who's available. I'm pretty sure Dame's back.
Hawks are 17-18, ninth in the East there. So yeah, I mean these are winnable games for the Warriors. God, those poor Raptors are 15-19. Wizards 15-21, Magic 13-23, Pistons 9-28. Your Pistons, the worst team currently in the NBA.
It's unbearable to watch. Like, you can't watch. And our Killian Hayes just like straight up sucker punch. Not really sucker punch, kind of sucker punch. I feel like he should have expected something. But Moritz Wagner, Franz's brother, for hip checking him out of bounds, and he flew into the bench, and Killian kind of got him on the side of the head.
Threw an actual punch in a basketball game. You rarely see that.
Yeah.
What did he get? How many games did he get suspended?
It's not announced yet, but I think a lot of Pistons fans are kind of pointing to remember when Jokic like straight up just went at one of the Morris twins last year?
Shoulder checked him in the back or something, right?
And his back was completely turned, like wasn't expecting, and then the guy got whiplash, like barely played the entire year. I think it was Markieff. Jokic got one game.
Yeah.
Like probably should have gotten more.
Punch is a little different though, because punch is intention to hurt somebody.
I don't know, when Jokic is like probably pushing almost 300 pounds there with how tall he is. Like,
yeah, but he could have threw a punch too, and it may have been worse.
I almost think Jokic bulldozing someone would be more harmful than a punch.
Punch to the back of the head.
Than a Jokic punch. I feel like, Jokic is a big guy. I don't want to get bulldozed by that guy.
Okay, so these first 3 games. Now, I want to look at them in the proper outlook, the proper conversation here. 3-0 to get back to 500 after they gave away all those games on the road. Is that Memphis game a turning point? Because we thought the Boston game was a turning point, and it turned out not to be. Now, some of that was Steph getting hurt, Andrew getting hurt. But could they build upon this Memphis game and make it a little bit of a statement? And, how the Warriors turned their season around, and the year-end DVD that comes out is about this Christmas game, because the Grizzlies were thinking they were the new team, and the Warriors had to show them who was the champion still. So I kind of wonder if they could look at that from a narrative standpoint, but at the same time, I kind of want to see them win on the road before I even make any proclamations like that.
Yeah, that was going to be what I would say was, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. We saw what happened in Boston. It looked like the turning point. Then boom, Milwaukee, back-to-back Indiana. You lose both of those. So I think with the Memphis one, I think the turning point is more like Phoenix to San Antonio. How do those 2 games look? Phoenix at home and then San Antonio away. I think I'll make my judgments there. And I shouldn't, because San Antonio, you should realistically kill them. But I still would like to see if they have almost like a Minnesota Timberwolves, how they played the Minnesota Timberwolves when the Timberwolves were home and they killed them. Like one of the only 2 road wins, or 2 or 3 road wins they have, and that's one of them. They killed them. I want to see them kill the Spurs and kill the Wizards too. I think that would. And that shouldn't show that there's a turning point, because those teams are bad and the Warriors should beat them. But it's like the Warriors are like a Detroit Piston when they're on the road.
What would you predict their record to be at the end of this homestand? So they're 3-0 now. 8-0 would be a perfect homestand.
I realistically only see them losing 1 game max.
Okay, and who is that to?
It's either to Atlanta or Orlando. I think the Warriors are going to bring their A game against the Suns and try to just like kill them without Book.
I think if they lose a game, it is Portland.
Oh, Portland. I should have said Portland.
They usually beat Portland, but
Steph
without Steph, that Dame is a little bit more of a problem. Though a Dame and Poole will be really fun. I still kind of worry about the Suns, because the Warriors just don't match up well against the length of that team.
I think this current version of the Warriors do. I think my main question is that what happens when Wiggins comes back? We already saw they sent the Rollins and PBJ down to Santa Cruz. That probably means Wiggins is coming back. When Steph comes back, when JaMychal Green even comes back, like all these young guys who I feel like are getting really beneficial run and like getting to play well and play bad, like they're going to get pushed out of the rotation, except for Kuminga probably. And it's like, I'm just wondering what that version of the Warriors is going to look like.
I still feel like Bridges and Ayton, CP is going to give him problems if he's playing. Just for whatever reason, both times they played the Suns this year, there was this clear line between the two teams that said, "Oh wow, the Suns are like way better this year." And so the Warriors do need to sort of figure that thing out. And I would like to see that happen. But, like you're saying, the rotation, and we'll talk about that here in a second. The bench has seemed to gel and they've seemed to figure things out. Ty Jerome is he's kind of Steve's run stopper a little bit. Like when things get a little bit out of control, he brings in Ty Jerome to calm things down because he is a true point guard versus,
Is
Jordan.
he though?
He pulls the ball out and he runs plays, and I feel like
I
that's
feel
what
like
Steve
all
Kerr
he
likes.
does. I feel like all he does. Like we need to put respect on Ty Jerome's name. I'm with you there, but I feel like his offense, and I don't mean to compare him to these players, but his offense is very like CP3 / Cade Cunningham like, where it's like you get the big to set you a pick, and it's very slow moving up to the free throw line for you to either take your floater or to kick it to the big man, and he takes the floater almost every single time. So I'm wondering what happens when like why I mean, he's not a player you game plan against, but maybe you should. And maybe I would just tell the guy, I would tell the coaches, I would tell my players like stop the shot. Like we haven't seen him really kick it to Wiseman yet. We haven't seen him really kick it to the center in that slow pick and roll that Cade and CP are all so good at doing when the shot's not there. So I'm wondering if
that's a good comparison. I was sort of thinking of it as like point guard Kyle Anderson. Like just super deliberate, herky jerky.
It doesn't look smooth.
No, and I'm so surprised when he gets these shots off. But then we actually looked up his height when we were watching that Memphis game, and we're like, how is this dude 6'5"? He looks like he's 6'3".
Yeah.
But if he is 6'5", then that's partially why, right? Because Jordan is also 6'5".
No, Jordan's 6'4" or 6'3". You gotta look this up. You're bad with heights.
You better look.
I'm
Jordan
looking
up.
this up.
You
Jordan's
better
6'4".
look Jordan up.
I want to say Jordan 6'4".
Okay. Well, I mean 6'5", 6'4". They're pretty similar. If Jordan was 6'2", then you would have a reason to call me out. But I feel like
I'm correcting you regardless. Yeah, 6'4".
So maybe that's the thing is he just has a little bit more height than we realize. The one who I still have problems with, and I know there's something here for him. I know Steve likes him. Anthony Lamb, he seems like a very predictable player for me. I can almost predict every single time he shoots whether it's going in or not. And it is solely based on how open he is. Now, that there's no science there, right? That's just basketball. But he shoots really well when they leave him wide open and they don't pay attention to him, or he's the last guy who the ball gets swung to. Yet when he is defended, it is not only a miss, sometimes a bad miss. Like we're talking like air balls when he's defended. So I'm still not a giant believer in Anthony Lamb. He had actually a nifty play yesterday where he either got a steal or a rebound, and he had to split two guys, and then he kind of did this like I don't know if it was a Euro step or just like this long step, and he kind of did a little bit of a reverse. I was like, wow, I haven't seen that before from this dude. So that was kind of nice. But he's this predictable, he's like the Ty Jerome wing of players. And maybe that's good for Kerr because he knows, okay, they're not going to turn this ball over because they're trying to create something out of nothing. They know what their limits are, and thus they'll pass it out before it gets to that moment. But yeah, I'm still waiting for. I wouldn't say I've been won over by Jerome because I also noticed on the other end, if a team's going to get hot from three, a lot of the times it's him. A lot of times it's Jordan too, but they have both of those guys have a hard time getting over screens and defending or getting out and defending the three. But yeah, Anthony Lamb, I'm not 100% convinced, but Ty Jerome is winning me over a little bit. So I'm definitely putting a little bit of respect on his name.
Yeah, I almost go like the opposite way of being predictable. I almost think, and maybe just to me, that Anthony Lamb is almost more unpredictable. Like I think it's predictable. You could tell if the shot's going in or not. But again, that play that he got a steal and split two guys, he had someone running right with him. Like I would be like, pass the ball. I would think the defenders are like, okay, we've probably scared him into passing the ball. Who is this guy? This guy's really not going to try to shoot over two of us. And I feel like Anthony Lamb had a couple of those plays where it's like, okay, pass the ball, dude. And he ends up just, whenever he gets a fast break now, he's just like kind of putting it up and on his own when he has guys with him, running with him. And I was like yelling at the screen for him to pass it to, and he wouldn't. And he's a guy who would like, with like 7 seconds left on the shot clock, like I've seen him just pull a three straight in someone's face. It's like he's almost unpredictable in that sense, where I think that's been working for him. And Ty Jerome too, a little bit, not as much as Lamb, but like the fast break 3-pointers, those are so dumb. I keep yelling at the screen as well. Like, why are you taking those shots? And he actually hit one last night. He has Wiseman and Moody running on both corners, and he's like, "Oh, I'm Ty Jerome. I'm going to take a."
You know why
why
the coaches would say to shoot that shot though? If it's a 3-on-2,
then Wiseman can get the rebound or something.
You have the rebound advantage.
They didn't. Because I think he did two of them, and he missed one. They didn't get the rebound.
So who would pass that ball when you're talking about on who's kind of going 1-on-2? You know who passes that ball in today?
Draymond?
Kuminga.
Oh, yeah.
You see Kuminga dropped it off to Ty Jerome of all people on the 2-on-2.
Hey, I've been saying, man, when I was watching that Ignite stuff, like a lot of Kuminga playmaking, and I'm really excited to see how much he continues to incorporate that into how he's playing right now, because he's one of the only people that actually like looks to find Wiseman.
All right, I want to do a little bit of a grading thing here, because I want to talk about the bench. Without Steph, without Wiggins, a lot of these bench guys are playing more. Draymond, I know he's been a little hampered. He didn't even play a lot yesterday. He played when it mattered, though. Looney, I feel, has been he's clearly not as good as when they have their best starting five out there. When Jordan is like playing a little 2-man game with him, and Looney cuts, and it's like, do I drop it off to Looney? Because there's a 50% chance he's fumbling this ball out of bounds, and so they do it, and then he fumbles it out of bounds. But yeah, he's clearly not as good of a player with this with a couple of their best players out, and 3 of them yesterday. But yeah, I just want to go through the guys and see what you would have given their grade for the season. And then what you sort of feel like their grade could be or should be at this point in the season after these 3 home games, and maybe at the end of this homestand. And we can start with Wiseman, because I would say before he gets sent down to Santa Cruz, he was probably like a D in how,
an F.
Yeah, D or an F in how poorly he was playing. And now, since he's gotten back, and since he's been he's been a pretty responsible player. There are a couple times where he'll just shoot it because he knows that he's not getting the ball back. I would say he's been like a B-, like a B- since he came back.
I think my thing with Wiseman, I would probably say a B too, but I don't know how to figure it out. But the whole cat and mouse pick and roll thing, I still feel like he has a really hard time navigating. Mm-hmm. Again, I have no clue how I would handle it in that situation too. But if he could figure that out, like that would be, B+, A- type of thing. But yeah, really low before Santa Cruz. A little rough when he got back to against the Knicks, and then the big Nets game was great. And yeah, since that Nets game, he's probably been like a B or B+, because we think those, we said it watching before looking at Twitter, like that felt like one of his best games in a Warrior uniform against Memphis, mm-hmm. and he didn't score any points. He just did all the right things and made it very uncomfortable at the rim for a guy like even like Ja to finish at. Like that would terrify me, having Kuminga and Wiseman, 2 athletic freaks, just jump as high as possible to contest your shot. And that was really impressive.
I wonder if the team wants him to really, really dive hard at the rim, because yesterday there was a shot that he took where if he would have just caught the ball at the free throw line like he did and put a little baby jumper up there, that was, that he can hit that shot. But instead, he took that one dribble and went long and like laid it off high off the backboard, didn't hit the rim. So I would like to see him get that ball, and he can shoot that jumper. Just shoot that little free throw jumper too. Just show off, because if you can hit that shot, then the next time you get the ball there, they kind of got to pay attention to you, and then maybe you pump fake and you go to the hole. So I want to see a little bit more of that. But yeah, I mean, much better. B minus. I'm completely fine. B minus B for him. And
Yeah,
I
and if
like when he comes into the game, I'm like excited because I want to
yeah,
see what he's gonna do. Kuminga, same thing, but Kuminga has been a part of the rotation of late, so you're just like, okay, he's in. But when Wiseman comes, like, okay, I just want to see him play well. I'm pulling so hard for him to play well.
yeah, and it feels like lately they're matching him up against specific types of centers. Against the Utah Jazz, it was Walker Kessler. He would kind of go in when Kessler was in. The game before against Charlotte, it was the rookie Mark Williams. I forget if he was getting put in during the Minnesota game against a specific player. I'm not entirely sure if he went in when someone else on Memphis was going in, but I think Walker Kessler is probably a tougher matchup. But I think we need to just keep an eye on, I guess, like if he starts getting put in, maybe not against that type of archetype of center, because they're both Mark Williams and Walker Kessler are both profile as like these like kind of shot blocking, good defensive big centers. And I mean, once we get to the Detroit game, like Jalen Duren is the best out of those three in that category. So we'll see with that.
So Kuminga, let's talk about Kuminga. I would say before these last 2 weeks, I would say he was probably around the C plus ish. And I feel like he's fitting in very well. He's not sitting out on the 3-point line. He's attacking, he's creating, he's grabbing boards. In the Utah game, was it Beasley who he had in the corner, and he literally just stole the ball from him, like took it out of his hands late?
That was the Charlotte game. That was against PJ Washington.
Okay, that's what it was. And so those type of plays, almost like nobody but Draymond can make that kind of defensive play on this Warriors team. Some of the decision making that he makes is very Draymond-esque as well, Iguodala-esque. And I think he's been like a B plus in these last couple weeks.
I'm not going to give him a grade like pre-rotation, because how I was vouching for him. I was, really trying to say how he should be in this rotation, and they just never really played him, or it was spot minutes. I'm giving him an A. I think that he is like essential to what they've been able to do in these wins, and even in like I think the previous Utah game as well, the one where Fontecchio hits the buzzer beater because Poole gets it stolen on the last possession. Like, he was awesome in that game too, when he got into it with Jordan Clarkson. Like, he's been, showing these spurts of really impressive minutes.
Consistency though was
consistency
a problem.
is tough, but I don't get it. Like, even in the Charlotte game when he played really well, played the entire fourth quarter, like he didn't play in the third quarter at all. And I just thought that was weird. Like, there's no consistency in his minutes either. So, I mean, I think that what he brings to the table in terms of his skill set, like turning into what I've been saying, like a point of attack defender where he's like really trustworthy, and he's gonna be an all defense guy. Like, I think that's what he's going to be in his career at some point. And I mean, he looks as good as the best of them right now. And then like, as well as his like ability to finish and his ability to like really get those tough rebounds too. It's just like, it's everything you would want in a player. And I just don't understand why he hasn't been getting like consistent minutes in a consistent rotation. It's just been all over the place. So I would like to see him, get that consistency.
Okay, so I feel like Moses Moody is kind of like a C, and he's probably still like a C. He's not getting any consistency in his minutes. He's almost like an NA, because I don't know. It's kind of hard too, because he seems like he's a really relaxed kind of guy, and you want to see a little bit more fire from him. You want to see a little bit more like, show your rage. We know that you're not happy sitting here playing behind all these guys. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really change my grade on him. He hasn't really shown much since of late, even.
Yeah, I think with Moody, it's like I would just directly point to what PBJ did last night, where it's like every time Patrick got the ball, he really just shot it from three. And I feel like Moses kind of strays away from that, and maybe
he's still shooting like almost 40, right?
Yeah, 38%. Like it's awesome, but I still feel like he passes out of some shots that he should probably be taking or second guesses himself. Whereas Patrick was just like, I don't get playing time. I'm just throwing this dang thing up.
Yeah.
And that
And
was
that's why they put him in too.
yeah. And I would like Moody to have that because I think Moody's a better shooter than Patrick. I think Moody has better arc on his shots, and Patrick's kind of feel like a little more laserish. I don't know how consistent that can be, but
His
he's shooting it
shot
really well right
looks
now.
like a junior version of KD's shot, like how straight it is.
I can see that. Yeah.
Okay, Ty Jerome, I was not a fan of his. I would have placed him around the C range, but the last 2 weeks, last 3 weeks, especially these last 3 games, I thought he's played pretty well. Man,
Yeah,
I don't
Jesus.
know, A- probably for me, I think.
These last 3 games, he's been like whatever above an A+ can be.
He's
Like
like one of the best players on the team.
I think yeah, when you put it into context, like a two-way guy providing these really good minutes and a lot of points, like that's just like the best two-way guy you can really get, right? Like out of all the two ways available, like that's just really solid from what he's been bringing in that context. But I'm really interested on what they do because Marcus tweeted that they're at like 28 or 23 games out of their like 55 that two ways are allowed. So I'm wondering, like, are they going to sign one of them as the 15th guy because they kept that 15th roster spot open, and maybe just like bring back Quindary Weatherspoon as a two-way guy as well to fill that other vacant spot once they sign one. I don't know what they're going to do, but that is interesting that we've been relying on Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome so much, and they've been providing a lot for what they currently are in the roster, and we're almost halfway through the games that they're even allowed to play.
Okay, and then Anthony Lamb, he's sort of been just like a C+ for me all season. I'm not sure that has changed necessarily, though. You've mentioned this in the past. He does shoot from 3 for a nice percentage, but my concern has always been, yeah, because he's the 5th option on the floor and they leave him. He's the
Yeah.
guy who's left open. Whenever they defend him, it's not going in. So I'm sure, but the makes count, right? So the makes count. I would keep my grade with him as well. I don't know if I would change it or not.
I think he's actually like, if you just do like the past 3 games, I think he's actually been like a terrible 3-point shooter. But because I think he's like 1 of 10 in the past 2 or something like that. It hasn't been great, but I'd probably give him a B just because I feel like he doesn't second guess at all. He kind of just does things, and you may like it or you may not like it, but there's like a lot of good things that he does. And I think that once defense is just like kind of adjust, he's probably made useless, but until they do, just keep doing it.
All right. I would have given Patrick Baldwin and Ryan Rollins a little bit of an incomplete before because they didn't really play much, but Patrick Baldwin has gotten a little bit of run and he has thrown it up. So it's really good to see. What do you see? Because Tim and Marcus and Anthony on plus minus were trying to figure out like who he could be. And
I liked their comparison. I liked Anthony's.
Well, Tim has always said Davis Bertans. Like he would bring that one up. Also, Maxi Kleber is another one that you could bring up. When I was watching that game yesterday, I was like, man, imagine if he could be a poor man's Markkanen. And I think somebody mentioned that on the show as well. Just that, that 6'10" guy who can just shoot from the outside. You got to watch for him. And he can also just get rebounds because he's tall. But the thing about him and just athletically, he looks so old. He plays like an old man, like just his body. It looks like it hurts for him to run. That's how bad it looks. But so that's probably a reason why he won't get more than, your 5-minute stints, maybe 1 or 2 5-minute stints a game, even if he's playing well because of the defense thing. But yeah, who could he turn into? Is it a poor man's Markkanen? Like who's the person?
I think the Markkanen comparison is so tough because like what is a poor man's Markkanen? Like Markkanen is able to basically finish at like all 3 levels right now and is playing like an all-star type of campaign, whereas offensively Baldwin has just been a 3-point shooter. So in high school, one of the highest ranked prospects out of that class, and then gets that tough injury in like junior year of high school, but I don't know what his shot selection was there. But like just right now, he's shooting threes and he shot like one runner last game. So I kind of got to see more if he does some fadeaway stuff in the mid range to make a better prediction. But right now, like it's just a 3-point shooter. So I thought Slater's comp, Michael Porter Jr. Potentially, and I thought that one was he was just saying in the similarities of 3-point skill at that like 6'10" size. I think Porter Jr. is probably 6'8" or 6'9", but like there is some similarities that like don't really always pertain to basketball with those two, where I think that they were both top high school prospects in like the ESPN 100 of their high school tenures. Both go to college and sustain like some injury that like stunts them from playing that much ball in college. I think both of them actually went to a less competitive school because their dads were coaches there. Unless I think Porter either went because his dad was a coach or his whole family went to that school. I can't entirely remember, but remember Porter had that back thing where like, he
I
was
feel like he still has that back.
He still has the back thing. He's just coming back from it last year too, and he went through it in college. And again, both top high school guys who fall later in their draft, whereas Porter went in like I think the 14th or 15th, maybe 14th to 20th range, and Baldwin goes all the way to 28 for the Warriors. I just think there's really interesting similarities in not just like the ability to shoot at that size, but also some of their journeys to where they could potentially be and where they are now are kind of similar with the injury stuff and being top guys at high school and not getting as much run in college. I feel like that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he went to school in Missouri or something?
Yeah. I think Michael Porter Jr. did.
That's the thing with him is you just hope. According to NBA.com, Michael Porter Jr. is also 6'10".
Okay, 6'10". There you go.
Yeah, that would be exciting if he could be that, but I just feel like Michael Porter Jr. has just a different level of athletic ability than Baldwin.
I don't know. I think Michael Porter Jr. just is more of a sharpshooter at different levels than just.
But there's also a smoothness to his game that Baldwin hasn't shown yet. I don't know. But yeah, that'd be that's a great upside for him if he could, if they can go, okay, in 2 years you're going to be a scorer for us. That's fantastic to get at the end of that first round. Yeah. And Ryan Rollins, on the other hand, he's shown that he is very young. I think that's what he has shown.
Yeah.
Every time he gets in the game, he's chucking, man. He's chucking and he's turning the ball over. Those are the two things that he's going to do. But he's got a little bit of athleticism to him, and he's got a little bit of dynamic ability to him. So he's not going to get the run now for sure, but he's got some upside, and hopefully he can just play in Santa Cruz and ball out there, and maybe next year or something, maybe they could utilize him in some way. But he's going to be stuck behind guys like Ty Jerome, because those are the guys. Ty Jerome played on a national championship team, and he's been fighting on rosters, and he's hungry, and that could be Rollins's career also, right? Sort of like having to fight for his spot, and that will make him a better player and a tougher guy probably than just getting run as a young player on a great team, because that's kind of what separates someone like Ty Jerome from some of these other guys. Is just he's literally had to fight for every opportunity to play, and that's kind of how he plays. He looks like he's fighting for his next meal, like kind of type of player.
Yeah. I think I've said it on this podcast a couple of times, but I'm really interested in what he can, if he kind of locks up on the defensive side, if he could be a good defensive player, because I think he's got like a 6'10" or 7-foot wingspan, something insane like that. So yeah, I think you're probably onto something there with him fighting for a spot. But didn't the Warriors like sign him to like a 2-year or 3-year contract?
So last thing, there's 2 updates here. Wiggins is not playing on Friday, but they kind of think that it might be his last game that he has to sit out. So maybe Monday in Atlanta that he can play. Jermichael Green also has a leg infection, and I don't know exactly what that means, but the way that Slater tweeted it out, he said he is listed out with a right lower leg infection. He has been in health and safety protocols. I wonder if he got like a staph infection.
He got leg COVID.
Yeah, what I mean, because staff is crazy, right? If you sometimes it can be really uncontrollable,
Oh wow, yeah, I don't.
and yeah, and so hopefully, he's not doing too badly because
They got
staff
to bring
can get
back up
ugly.
PBJ then.
Well, what does that mean though? If he doesn't play, that means that Wiseman is probably going to continue to get run, which I think is good for Wiseman. And we kind of talked about this last podcast when we were talking about sort of like, what could we give these guys for Christmas? I don't think JaMychal is going to last on this team. Not to say that the Warriors need to trade him or whatever, but he as a veteran is less valuable than the young players that they have. So it's like he's completely expendable because the one thing that you want from the veteran is to bring in that game readiness that some of these young players don't have. But who would you rather have late in the fourth quarter to get a rebound, Kuminga or JaMychal Green?
Oh, 100% Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That if it comes down to, do you play Green? Do you play Kuminga? Do you play Green? Do you play Wiseman? You may sneak Green in the fourth quarter ahead of Wiseman, just to kind of to make the court a little bit bigger. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll at least what it looks like is by the time we go to that game against Detroit, they that Wiggins should be playing by then. So that's good to see. And you know what the good thing about this schedule, let me pull up this Warriors schedule again. I don't think they have any back-to-backs. So Klay could play all of these games on the remaining
Homestand.
games of this homestand.
Yep.
And let's see here.
The
When
only
is
back.
the next back-to-back?
I don't know. You got the
It is
schedule up.
not until on the road, January 15th and January 16th, Bulls and
Nice.
Wizards. So that's and then they have it again soon thereafter, Celtics and Cavs, which is gonna be a little tougher.
Oh.
That's gonna be a little tougher.
Oh.
So, but that just means that, out of the next 10 games, Clay's playing 8 of them or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
that's pretty good. Okay. Anything left before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so.
What's going on with the BAM this week?
Taking breaks.
No
Christmas
way. You're
break.
going
Yeah.
dark.
Well,
The
it's just for
BAM's going dark.
it's just the Christmas thing. I'll try to maybe get a pot out on like Sunday or something like that. But yeah, we definitely took a Christmas break.
You got to do like a reels or something for the Instagram. Just so
I know,
people don't
dude. Have
forget.
you seen like our likes on those reels are insane. Like I think the De'Aaron Fox one has like 1,400 with only like 7K
awesome.
plays. It's like weird. Yeah, it's because the likes, I feel like you should have more views than likes, but we have like substantially way more likes. Like even on the DeRozan one we posted, I think that's up to like 1,200 likes now. Like our last two TikToks have, or our Instagram reels have 1,000 plus likes on each of them, and both of them are less than like 10K plays or something like that.
That's good. Yeah, I
Actually, no,
don't.
yeah. So more views than likes. We do have more views.
The one that I did on Steph, it started out a little slow, but it started to pick up. I've started to see like lots and lots of likes of late. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look
Yeah, it's
that one up
weird.
and see them. I think it was at like 200 or 300 or something. So, all right. If you are listening via podcast on your podcast player and have a couple of seconds and can throw us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, little website there. And if you want to drop a review, we would love to see that because I would love to read some of these reviews as they come in. And if you are listening or you are watching us via YouTube, give us a little subscribe there. I would love for us to get to 100 subscribed accounts in the near future. That's a nice little number there, 100. For a channel that we only have, I think, less than 75 subscribers on this channel, we still get a good number of views on some of these videos. I think I put up a Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy because Rod and I asked the question on the podcast: if healthy and neither guy is hurt come playoff time between Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy, who do you play?
You asking me?
Well, that was the question. We've gotten
Oh,
170 views over the last day on that
did you get
video.
comments on what's like the
Uh-huh.
consensus?
Well, and everyone's anti Jimmy.
Yeah.
That's just who it is. It's just who it is. But who would you play? Who would you be a Brock guy? Would you be a Jimmy guy?
I think I need a couple more weeks to answer that, but as of now, I think I'd be a Brock guy. I just think Jimmy is so limited with where he can take you and what he can do. So,
And that is just a little bit of a preview of Rod and I coming back on Sunday on New Year's evening. We're not going to be back after the game because I'm going to be out with family, but probably I'm going to say 8 o'clock Pacific time or so, right around that time, 7 or 8. Rod is in Las Vegas, though, so we'll see. That may change some things. He's going to be
oh, is
in
he going to the
Vegas.
game?
I don't know if he's going to be at the game or not, but I know he's out in Las Vegas right now and was saying he was staying through next weekend. So maybe he
Cool.
will go to the game. I'm not sure. That game might be a little dangerous, though. But yeah, so we'll be back, and I think I would lean what I answered on the podcast. I think is I would lean slightly Jimmy just because he's been in these big games.
Yeah.
But the reason to lean towards Brock is because he can just get out of the pocket and he can, create some time with his legs, and he's not afraid to throw downfield either. So those are good things. But yeah, like you said, 2 more games, and my answer may be a little bit different. All right, we're gonna get out of here. We'll be back next week after we go to the game. So we'll this is my first time this year seeing the Warriors in person. So I'm excited to go and see what the thoughts are, and hopefully they just beat the crap out of Detroit, because Detroit, the worst team in the NBA. Killian Hayes punching people in
Probably
the
won't
head.
be there for that game.
All right. So for Bri, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace.